Here are the two key coronavirus facts and my credentials sandwiched between them. The coronavirus has a very low kill rate, approximately the same as the flu. There was some weak dissent when the first study came out of California suggesting this, as there is with just about every study in the history of science. But with the second out of California, with super high rates in some surveys, and others in Europe and the United States showing the same thing, the story becomes clear. This was here for a while before they realized it. It spread like wildfire, and there simply weren't that many people who managed to avoid this thing. But luckily, just not that many people are actually susceptible. At the lowest antibody test results we have so far, this thing is still killing far less than 1%. Far less than that if you go with the average. And the numbers are suggesting it is indeed where the seasonal flu comes in most years. The facts suggesting that they overcounted coronavirus deaths are better than those suggesting that they've been undercounted, and some of the media moves the last few weeks have been utterly baffling, including no coverage whatsoever of the many quick setup hospitals that the Army is now taking down because they were never used. Now, don't get me wrong, we are quarantined, we have masks and wear them when appropriate. Grandpa is keeping spirits up with witty photos, but no part of the reality of the super low kill rate was lost on the diligent observer. It's been 6 weeks since we first suggested this super high infection rate and super low death susceptibility, and to be frank, there was a bit of disagreement between the facts we were hearing in terms of how they were pieced together. But alas, one could easily believe this thing was being overblown weeks ago if they believed just two key facts, which we are now finding out are absolutely true. There is potentially weeks-long latency in this virus. That means for some patients with high public exposure, the R0 could be in the hundreds, and with most people being asymptomatic or thinking they've got a cold or the regular flu, most were never tested. We're spreading it even more, and all the while hiding the real, low death numbers of the virus. Now, for those who care for these things, while I have gotten to the point in my life where I can now focus on more explosive and enjoyable fields of science like astrophysics of supernova and the plasma interactions of space weather, I did begin my career discovering the electromagnetic membrane depolarization mechanism of action of a new chemical entity, demonstrated it's similar to the human antimicrobial peptide cathelicidin LL37, which is an antiviral among other things, and is now FDA approved for a few things I'm not interested in discussing at this time. I've dealt with the chemistry, the FDA, and pharma companies. Moving on. Now, when I laid out these facts in March on Facebook as the quarantines were coming in, one post in particular got people very upset, saying I was being insensitive at best and downright recklessly wrong at worst. Well, with the facts now showing the latter, simply not to be the matter, and it's the humanity chatter that's up on the platter, because the cure has become the disease, and it's way more deadly than the coronavirus. The bad argument here is that I'm not being sensitive to those vulnerable people. Well, which vulnerable people, and how many of them? Because what has been done is going to kill far more people, and here's why. The top two leading indicators of premature death worldwide, including child and infant mortality, are hunger and general poverty, since the latter comes with the lack of access to healthcare and education as well. We'll start with the food. As the U.S. food shortage hasn't even hit us in the pipeline yet, we already know we're going to double the hungry people on Earth. That's 130 million extra people that are on the top tier death risk. Right away, you know the cure is a disease. But hunger can also come down the road and poverty as well, and extreme poverty is going to jump by about 50 million people. This will equate to a more general poverty increase of anywhere from hundreds of millions to a billion plus people. The cure has fanned the two most deadly flames of humanity, and at a conservative estimate, 250 million people have had their lives put in jeopardy by the shutdown of the world, because healthy people are quarantined. At those conservative estimates, that's 3.5% of the entire human population. These numbers generally do not adequately represent the slice taken out of developed countries, and there is no doubt. When you lose and take away what your survival is based on, it really doesn't matter if that's a fishing boat or the stock market. The only reason there are 7 billion people alive today is because society allows it. Every day the quarantine continues, hundreds of thousands are sentenced to death. And I'm being insensitive? How about this then? The poorest countries are going to be the hardest hit, some with virtually no coronavirus effect, which makes this global quarantine a selfish assault on those people from that point of view. But that's not my point of view. It's okay to admit that there's no clean option, no nice, neat choice where you get to check all your virtue signaling boxes and feel great about yourself when you look in the mirror. This is reality, and sometimes none of the options look good. Sink or swim. The economy is still going to take a major hit. People are out of jobs, businesses are bankrupt. The psychological toll this has taken will be matched by the reaction to the truth that these antibody tests are going to continue to reveal in what we've actually done to the world. The climate isn't getting any better. Earth's magnetic field is still fading as the sunspot cycle is gearing up for another maximum phase the next 5 years. This thing those crazy people on the corners have been warning about doesn't happen in a day, but it's already here. The game has started. This is what they've been waiting for, and it's going to be a long, slow road down the spiral. Plenty of time for you to catch up if you're coming. Be safe, everyone.